Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Make Life Less Taxing podcast, the show where we uncover what really creates freedom in life and business, and we'll explore stories of those who've learned how to build wealth with purpose.
Welcome to the Make Life Less Taxing podcast. Today, I'm joined by Jeffrey Hanna, founder of Hanna Family Solutions, a consulting firm out of San Diego that's helping high-income professionals and business owners uncover hidden tax savings opportunities, increase cash flow, and build generational wealth. Jeff, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Daniel.
Great to have you on. Jeff, can you share a little bit more about who you are and the work that you're doing?
Yeah. So obviously my name is Jeff Hanna. I'm based out of San Diego. I got into financial services about 3 years ago now. I started out selling what's called burial insurance or funeral final expense insurance. Quickly kind of realized that that was not what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. So I was playing golf with my dad one day, and I was thinking to myself, man, how do I work with people like you? And so I just asked him, I said, Dad, how do I work with people like you? And he said, not by selling, what you're selling right now, burial insurance. I don't need that. And so he basically told me go out and find some financial advisors that can mentor you and teach you the different strategies and things that guys like me need. And so that was what I did. I went out and I found a group called the Innovative Group. I have some great mentors there. Um, and they have taught me all these different strategies. So now what I focus on is, I do all the normal stuff, your 401ks, your IRAs, life insurance, annuities, things like that. And I do them well. But my main focus with my firm is financial planning based tax mitigation strategies. So really trying to help people that are paying a lot of money in taxes and show them how to pay a lot less money in taxes, obviously through, legitimate strategies, no fly by night things. But a lot of people just don't know there's things out there, products out there that exist that can help them reduce their tax bill. And that's kind of where I fit into the picture. I'm not a CPA or tax attorney or anything like that. Technically, the only license I have is an insurance license. And so that's where I fit in is working with those other members of the team to help the client ultimately pay less in taxes.
Awesome. So the question that I have for you, what led you into that? But so what were you doing before, and how did you come up like financial services? Like, was there a moment that you just kind of decide, hey, this is what I want to do?
So I went to college at University of California, Santa Barbara, UCSB. And when I was in college, I went to a job fair, and I shook all the hands, I did that. And I took all the cards and I didn't get any offers for summer internships. And so I thought to myself, all right, I'm going to have to figure something out on how to make money because I'm not getting any internships. I need money to, be a college kid and do what college kids do. So I started going online and looking up how to make money online. And I found Amazon FBA, Shopify, and all of these different, make money online things. And so that's what I started. I started selling products on the internet, specifically. I have the bag here still. Actually, it's funny. But I started selling a sporting bag on Amazon, and that, turned into be a failure. And then I started selling different products to people over Shopify, and then that kind of fizzled out. And then I started a marketing agency. And that's really what I did for my first few years after college was run a marketing agency. I worked with e-commerce store owners, and I kind of realized one day, I was doing okay. I was making money, but I realized one day, I don't want to do this for the rest of my life. At that time, I had heard a podcast where they were talking about financial services, and I was having dinner with a friend, and we were kind of talking about, different career opportunities. And we had both seen this podcast and started talking about it, and it happened to be insurance. And so that's kind of what led me into the industry was that podcast through that company where the business owner came on and he was explaining that business model. So that's really what led me into it is I was doing marketing before, and that's really my passion is the marketing side of the things. Obviously, I love all of the financial aspects of it, but I just love talking about it and helping people implement that. And you have to be able to market, your strategies in order to help people. So that's kind of what I was doing before, and then ultimately what got me into it.
Oh no, I always love hearing the stories. I mean, I was recruiting myself into the financial industry close to it. It's going to be 30 years this year, actually. And I always love to hear how people kind of get in and what the stories are. But what I like about your story, you did something I think that a lot of people don't do. It doesn't matter, not even financial services or somewhere else. Ask right at the beginning, hey, how can I be actually more successful? I think a lot of people get into the financial industry and they just start working and they get stuck whatever they started with for years and years. Like you mentioned, kind of final expense was the thing that you started doing.
Yeah.
I've talked to advisors that have been doing that for the last like 15, 20 years, and they never kind of went and asked, and you had the advantage of kind of going and asking your dad. So I love that story. I think that's great. So listen,
Yeah.
if you had to sum up your kind of your mission right now in one sentence, what would that actually be?
Yeah. Before I get to that real quick, I just want to say I just got very blessed with who I met.
Mm,
Specifically, I want to talk about a guy named Matt Evans who has mentored me and showed me all of these different things. And there's a couple other guys as well. I just don't think they want me to mention them because they're kind of behind the scenes offline guys. But if I hadn't of met Matt Evans, I still would be in that position
mm.
where I would be selling Final Expense for 10 or 15 years. But so he was really the guy. The second question was one sentence mission statement. I would say my mission statement is to help people reduce the amount of taxes that they pay. And I don't care how we do that as long as it's obviously legal and
Mm.
legitimate, because there's a variety of different tools that you can use. But really, it's to help people that make a lot of money pay less in taxes. Because I think that, I mean, obviously, I have personal beliefs, but the amount of money that they take from us in the form of taxation, a lot of these people that are making five, six, 700,000 a year, 1,500,000 a year, $5 million a year, which, I have clients that kind of fall into that income range, not so much at the five or six, but I would say bottom level for me is like 700 and up. Those people are paying multiple six figures in taxes. And then when you see like what we get in return for giving away essentially half of our income to
Yeah.
the government for taxes, I just don't think it's a fair trade-off. And my personal belief is that these people would do better with that money in their pocket than paying it to the government. So that's really the one sentence, is to help people reduce how much they pay in taxes, and whatever tool is necessary in order to complete that job, we're going to go out and we're going to use and we're going to execute.
Oh, that's really great. I mean, listen, that's what Make Life Less Taxing, the podcast, is all about, and kind of the movement that we're on aligns exactly with you. It's keep what is yours and break free, and primarily break free from the traditional financial advice that's out there. And
Yeah.
that's the message for advisors and retelling advisors. That's the message you should be using with your clients. And sounds that's where we're really aligned on that when we first met and had our first conversation. So that's great. I love that. Now,
Yeah.
what's been the kind of the most exciting recently? Is there something exciting either in your business or in your life that you're kind of working on right now?
Yeah. I would say in business, it's going to be a private fund that I'm working with right now. We do something called the K1 conversion, and that's so we can remove 100% of the taxes from a 401k, an IRA, really any pre-tax retirement account through a private placement fund. It's something unique that I haven't seen, because I'm always doing this research of like, hey, what are other firms out there
Mm.
doing? How are they helping people eliminate the taxes on, XYZ account or, income, et cetera? And so this private fund that I was luckily given access to in order to refer people over to it and help my clients eliminate the taxes there. It's something that I'm very excited about. It's going to be a huge focus for 2026 moving forward. Really, because I haven't seen anything else that not only can eliminate the taxes on those pre-tax retirement accounts, but also, targets a fixed 10% rate of return. And it's when you look at how it actually generates that, it's pretty impressive. And so really someone can live off, let's say they have $1 million nest egg, you remove the taxes from it, live off about 100,000 a year net. Obviously this isn't a guarantee of any sort. I'm not trying to imply that it's a guarantee, but it's pretty unique. So that has me very excited. And then there's another plan that I'll be focusing on a lot more this year, and that's the non-qualified pension plan, which is just a way for a business owner to take an off-the-shelf IUL and get a tax break on it. So those are two of kind of the main focuses for, the next 6 to 9 months until we start, having to do what I call cleanup strategies. for income taxes. So yeah, those things are very exciting, and I'm really looking forward to helping a lot of people with using those.
Yeah, those sounds great and exciting. Now, what's typically going on in the world with a client that you sit down with, or actually, let's hear what kind of clients are you working with most often? Like, who are they?
Yeah, high income earners, high net worth families, high net worth individuals, people that have, I would say, an income range of typically five, six, $700,000 and up, especially on the tax planning side. We're talking about tax products that are going to help reduce what their income taxes are this year. For the past 2 or 3 years, it was a lot of what there's a strategy we use called mortgage free life, and that was a lot of people that fall in between the 140 to $500,000 income range. Helps people pay off their mortgage early and turn that mortgage into tax advantage retirement income. Excuse me. The advantage being there's no taxes on policy loans from insurance policies, so it's tax free. But it's kind of morphed into, yeah, more high income earners, five, six, $700,000 and up. And then on the planning side for like retirement, typically, if we're looking at, K1 conversions, you have to be an accredited investor. So $1 million and up, or 300,000 a year of income and up. And then I do a lot of annuity as well. When someone doesn't have that $1 million net worth in order to use the K1 conversion, we'll, fill the gaps with annuities. And my annuity clients typically under 1 million, but somewhere between like 250 to 700 is what I'm seeing a lot of those people sit at of assets inside of 401ks, IRAs, etc.
Oh, okay. So, what are kind of the biggest challenges? Like when somebody kind of comes to you, or when you meet somebody, what are some of the kind of bigger challenges that they're facing when they're trying to make their life less taxing, essentially?
I would say figuring out, number one, why their CPA hasn't showed them some of these strategies. And it's never a dig at CPAs. And I always try to explain to clients, like, you don't necessarily, I've only told a couple of people they have a bad CPA, but it's not necessarily the CPA's job in order to bring you financial planning strategies that reduce taxes. So I would say that's the first thing, is kind of say, hey, it's not the CPA's fault. This is why they do what they do. They focus on compliance, accounting, things like that. And obviously not every CPA is like this. But I would just say it's a lack of information. That's why they're not getting access to these strategies.
Yeah, I think you bring a great point. Unfortunately, most people think when we start talking about taxes, well, I've got my accountant, I've got my CPA. Unfortunately, most of them, I call them archaeologists. They
Yeah.
usually explore what has already happened. They're digging up through your last year tax return to kind of tell you, like, hey, Jeff, you've made $1 million. You got to pay the piper. You got to pay the tax. We can't do anything about it. I mean, yeah, there are some things that can be done, but they focus more on the compliance as opposed to some forward thinking. Because once, like, January 1st rolls around, you can't really do much for previous years income taxes, right?
Yep.
So you kind of have to be a little bit more forward thinking. And unfortunately, again, it's one of the traditional uh, uh, kind of ways of things have been done with accountants. They're there for compliance. They're there to go your income tax. They don't do a lot of tax planning ahead of time. There are some CPAs, I think, that do that, and I think there is more of them. But traditionally, most of them, they don't want to get involved. And I think often when we talked about some of the strategies that we're doing, also, they're not aware of them because, again, they're kind of, I call it this way: when you look at the income tax, or when you can look at the IRS, the income tax code, right? You've got, we call them uh, uh, red lights and green lights. So you got stop lights. That's what the accountants focus on. We focus more on the green lights. It's kind of like, hey, when you have this situation, when you have this, or you mentioned insurance, when you're looking at using that, there is a whole bunch of benefits and things you can get from that. Where
Yeah.
unfortunately most CPAs and accountants, they kind of like, oh no, you know what? You made an income, stop, you got to pay your tax, right? Instead of like, no, you've paid a lot of tax or have to pay a lot of tax. Let's figure out a way how we can mitigate that or reduce it in a way that you don't have to pay for it, right?
Yeah, and a lot of it I feel like is just getting ahead of it, before
Mhm.
like you said, before the red light happens, before you get hit with the red light, you need to get ahead of it and, be proactive about the planning. If you're waiting until March 15th for your
Yeah.
2025 taxes or whatever the tax year is, right? Or April 15th, in that time frame, you're just not, unfortunately,
Yeah.
really going to have many options. I mean, there's a few that exist, but you should be people should be starting tax planning right now,
Yeah.
if they want the most
Yeah.
savings. But you know, not everyone wants to do that. So,
Yeah, no, that's again, you know what, from the perspective, keep what is yours and break free from the traditional way of doing things. And I think what you're doing, educating your clients and individuals around that, people just need to know because I think it was Judge Learned Hand that said that the tax system is designed for two types of people, for the ones that are informed and the ones that are uninformed. And
yeah,
unfortunately, vast majority of people are very uninformed, and even some CPAs and accountants are uninformed what is actually possible. So
yeah,
where
yeah.
do you see oh,
I
sorry,
think
go ahead.
CPAs do a great job at filing taxes, and
Yeah,
obviously there's some CPAs out there that do this stuff as well. Like we work with firms that are using these strategies, but I don't necessarily blame the CPA because there's just so much information if you
yeah.
look at that tax code. And you really have to be a specialist in knowing how to work with it. So, because I
Oh,
feel like
100%. Listen, and nowhere are we're working with a lot of CPAs and accountants. It's not, we're not here to bash anybody. We're just
yeah,
to make people aware that if you're thinking that you're being taken care of, you may not be. And it's kind of like, hey, let's go and take a look at what is the situation. Are there some things? And you can bring it to accountants. We love working with CPAs and just making them aware of these things because again, they can use it with other clients. Our job, and it sounds like kind of your work now in the 3 years that you've been doing this, kind of like, hey, I just want to go and educate people and if they're interested, let's go and have that conversation because isn't helping people keep what is theirs and kind of breaking free from that system where most people I feel like kind of asleep. So that's where it comes down to.
yeah.
Now, where do you see most clients unintentionally kind of leave most of their money or income on the table when you start working with them? What do you kind of see? And most of it is unintentional, like we just talked about.
Well, for W-2, there's only a few things that you could do. I would say they leave most of their money in their tax bill because they're not, let's say they're paying 40% total of, let's just call it 50%. So half of what they make, they're paying in taxes. We could reduce that down on someone that makes 750,000 W-2, you save them 100 grand with one or two
Yeah.
strategies. Approximately. So that's 100 grand that if they would have executed on the strategy, they could have put in some investment in order to grow long term. Um, so that's kind of the biggest thing I see with W-2 is they leave their money in their tax bill, not necessarily like 401k or anything like that. Not that I don't like 401ks or those type of accounts because I think they work, but I just think that it's stuck in the tax bill most of it. Now,
Yeah.
for business owners specifically, because that's the majority I would say of my clients are business owners. It's just not know they're leaving money in the tax bill, but also because they're not informed on some of these strategies that can help them move money into assets that they're not giving that money up, but it's getting them a tax break and they're also building wealth. And then also just doing things like insuring risk that didn't exist before. We use reinsurance with a lot of business owners, which is a strategy. So that's one area where, I see a guy making $4 or $5 million a year. He only needs, 500 grand to live off of. And it's like, why aren't you maxing out a reinsurance company, putting
Yeah.
$2 million a year in there? Which is what, guys like Warren Buffett essentially did in order to build his wealth. And all of the big Fortune 500 companies were using things like, non-qualified pension plans over 401ks and things like that. So that's really where I see that. And it comes just back to education and awareness. They just haven't been exposed and taught about these things, which, it's not really anyone's fault. It's just the reality of it. Obviously, they don't teach us this stuff in school. It's funny. My girlfriend and I were talking about this yesterday, but like they don't teach you literally anything in school. They don't teach you, how to file your taxes. They don't teach you how to balance a
Yeah.
budget. They don't teach you these things. So I don't even blame people for not knowing that these
Yeah.
tools exist. It's kind of on us as educators to have to go out there and teach the business owners these things.
Yeah. And listen, this is, I think, the exciting thing that we are now living in the world. I know we've got the chat GDPs and all of that stuff that's changing the whole world, but it gives us the opportunity just to go out there and start educating individuals. And you kind of mentioned marketing. I mean, marketing is all about now educating people, right? Like when it comes down
Yeah.
to, right, it's not trying to sell something to somebody that they don't want. Like that's not what we're about. It's about educating somebody, making them aware. Like you mentioned, somebody that's got W-2, yeah, a few little things that doesn't cost them anything more, but can save them $100,000. Like, who doesn't want that? Because once you get people that are making okay money, they're going to be okay on the income. Now they start thinking about legacy. And how do you
Yeah.
go and create a legacy? There's a great book, maybe you read it, What Would the Rockefellers Do? Right? That talks about the whole idea where now you're creating multi generational legacies. And these things can totally happen for somebody where they don't even think about that it's possible. And I think this is where most of the time, and I'm sure you hear it too, when you meet with people and you show them some of these strategies, and we've had CPAs account go like, I had no clue that this was even possible. Not that it could be done, that this was even possible. And it's kind of like, how come I have not heard about this before? And again, because most people unfortunately are uninformed or not informed. And listen, one of those, keep what is yours, break free from the systems, the whole educational system. Unfortunately, it was built on two ideas, right? How do we get more workers and how do we get more soldiers? And both of those, you don't want them to think. So you're just going to get them to comply with everything. And unfortunately, the whole educational system is producing taxpayers that are just not going to ask questions. They're just going to go every year, pay their tax. Some of them get very excited when they get a refund, not realizing you're just getting your money back that you basically lent to the government for nothing. Again, it's a matter of just making people more, more educated around that. Now, what's the kind of blind spots
Yeah.
that you see successful people overlook and then end up costing them time, money, and peace?
Blind spots, I would say really just not working with an advisor or planner or, whatever you want to call it, um, that is bringing them strategies. Cause a lot of, I'll give you a business owner example. They
Mm,
work with a financial advisor to when they move money out of their business, they're going and investing in some brokerage account. They have a few $1 million with, I'm not going to name one of the wirehouses, but with one of these,
yeah,
financial advisors. And a blind spot to me is like, hey, you could do the same. You could get to the same end point where you have millions of dollars inside of this investment account. But the blind spot is you took money out of your business, you paid taxes, and then you went and invested it into XYZ investment brokerage account, S&P 500, for example. Versus you could have done that same thing, but skipped a step and took a tax break on the money going in. So I think the blind spot is just not having that team member that can help them mitigate the taxes. And I know we're getting kind of redundant on like the point, but it's what it's all about, right? Make life less taxing. But
yeah,
I just think that's the blind spot is not
yeah,
working with someone that is bringing them these strategies. Now, if they don't even know, you don't know what you don't know, but if you're starting to hear things about tax mitigation, I would advise every business owner in high income W-2 to go out and find someone, whether that be, you or you're someone at your company or myself or really just anyone. There's tons of people out there
yeah.
that do what we do and go out and say, okay, what are my blind spots?
Yeah.
So
Get 100% get educated. I think one of the biggest blind spots, and I think you mentioned that a little bit before, is just start to realize that when you have a dollar, that dollar can have more than one purpose. That
yeah,
dollar can do more than one thing at a time. And I think this is the biggest, I think, blind spot that people have. They don't understand that. I mean, the banks do it all the time. They've got $1 now. They're able to do like, that 27 times, 27 more things, right? And people
yeah.
can go and structure their finances kind of doing it that way. But what is your approach to kind of finding those invisible opportunities for, tax mitigation or cost savings that others might overlook? Like, is there a process when somebody comes to you and you start talking with them? Can you give us a little bit of a glimpse into that?
Yeah, I would say end of year, it's pretty simple because they're coming to me and they're saying, okay, I made $1 million this year. What are my options? And depending on if they're a business owner, I'll just use W-2 for example. It's really one of about 3 strategies for them at that point in the year, and I just know I mean, this year got down to a point where there were so many people that were in that exact same scenario that I just named, where it's like, "Okay, we're gonna use this first to clean up the top half, and then we're gonna come in and use this strategy to clean up the bottom half," and it's just pretty simple and straightforward at that point. Our process typically internally as a firm, though, when we're working with, like, a business owner right now, is we get a snapshot of their complete financial situation. So that's going to be income, it's going to be assets, it's going to be goals, things like this. And then we're going to put some type of plan together that's going to show them, hey, if you implement XYZ strategy, you're going to be able to save this amount of money. So it's typically we look at their situation, we call it a data collection, and then we're going to put an analysis together, and then we're going to review that analysis and just show them a very simple before and after. Hey, this is what it's going to look like if you don't do anything, same path you're kind of on right now. If you implement XYZ strategy, you're going to have this much more available, or you're going to be able to grow your wealth by this much more, and be able to model it out. So pretty simple three step strategy for that.
Yeah, no, I think what you bring up is really important. Like you need to know where you're starting from and you need to know where you're going, right? And then the strategy really depends on those 2 points, knowing exactly what that is. Now, when you work with somebody, what's most important to you when it comes to how you serve your clients?
Long-term relationships. I really value long-term relationships, especially because, I'm a little bit younger. So I'm going to be in this business for, the next 30, 40 years serving clients. And so that's what I value the most is long-term relationships where we can work together, and really trust each other, because obviously my clients need to trust me, but I need to
Mm,
trust my clients as well. So that's something that I really look for. And then honestly, just people that are pleasant to work with.
mm,
I don't like dealing with, people that are going to be a pain in the butt. Obviously, I don't mean anything disrespectful by that, but if people aren't treating me with respect, then I just don't really have any interest in working with them, which I typically rarely run across that, if ever. I've had a few people that reached out and just were, kind of rude and disrespectful. But other than that, because a lot of people, find me on social media, everyone that I talk to, it's like I'm talking to a friend, which is what I love really, is just feeling like I'm talking to a friend.
yeah, no, you brought up something that when I talk to advisors, I always tell them, listen, you need to realize that your advisory practice, you're the founder, and people follow the founder, right? You have to be the content creator. Now you essentially got to be media company where you are letting people know who you are, but that will repel the people you don't want to work with, and it will essentially, get the people you want to work with to, to seek you out and want to have that conversation. And now you have that alignment when when you're working with those individuals. Now, yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say on that note, when you start posting content as an advisor, a planner, an agent, whatever you are, that kind of helps build relationships with people,
Mm,
whether you know it or not. Of I have some clients that come to me and they say, hey, I'm just ready to work with you on this strategy, and we get started, pretty much immediately because they've followed my videos for the past 2 years, and it's like we already know each other from that regard. So that's something that's always super cool to see as someone that posts videos on the internet. It's always a pleasure to meet people like that and bring them into the ecosystem and really be able to help serve them.
yeah, you're essentially referring your own people to yourself because you've already educated them. You showed them that, and again, that's the one advantage I think you have on a lot of advisors that are in the business, where you understand that marketing done well basically makes sales unimportant. Like the sale, it's not about selling at the end. It's just like showing what you're doing. And if people already understand what and how you operate, it just makes it that much easier having that conversation. I love the idea. In my
Yeah,
view, sales really should be like, hey, we're just friends. And the only difference is I've got some strategies that can truly help you. And I just want to show them what they are. And if you're interested, yeah, I do get rewarded for the work that I'm doing, and there should be nothing wrong with it because you're going to be better off. And it's got to be a win-win situation all the way around.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even. It's funny. My girlfriend and I were having this conversation yesterday, but I truly don't consider myself like a
Yeah,
salesperson, even though I've known my girlfriend since I was 15 years old, and she was like, "You're totally a salesperson," but I was like, she just says that because I'm like a talker and I just like talking to
yeah,
people. We'll be in the elevator and there'll be five of us and it's silent. And I just have to break the silence because I want to talk to you. So, but I view myself truly as an educator
yeah,
and, I really try to treat people how I want to be treated. And when someone starts to hard sell me on something, I'm like, I wanted to do this, but I don't want to do it now because you're hard selling me
yeah,
and you're just pushing me away. If we just could sit here and have a conversation, I know you're going to make money if I buy this, and I'm okay with that because we all got to make our living somehow.
yeah,
But it's like if we could just take it from an educator perspective, or like you said, a friendly conversation, it just makes it so much pleasant
yeah.
to really be around and work with.
Yeah, I think for advisors, they need to realize you're not sitting across the table with them. You need to figure out a way how, when you meet somebody, how do you go and sit beside them,
For
right?
sure.
Because
Yeah.
when you're, when you're against them, it kind of feels that way when you're trying to sell them, and it's like, no, no, let me show you what we're able to do. Listen, when it comes down to selling, put it that way. You're talking about, a girlfriend. Put it that way. I've been married. Yeah, this year is going to be 30 years that I've been married. Listen, I had to be a good salesperson to sell myself. So we're selling all the time. I
Yeah.
think what happens when we get into whatever business we're doing and now we're labeled as, oh, we got to go and sell a product, somehow we shift. We start to think like we've got to go and sell them hard or something. It's like, no, you're doing no different. Like when you were dating your girlfriend, when you started, you weren't selling her hard on yourself. You were just having a conversation and obviously there was an interest, right? And you had a point of view and you were just able to go and have a conversation and really that's what sales is. Sales is service, from that perspective. So
And
you bring
yeah,
a
it's
great point.
so great to help people. Like I've just
Yeah,
always loved helping people. Whether it was back in the day helping, a friend move out of his apartment or just anything to help do with helping people.
yeah,
Now helping people is just reduce taxes, which is
good.
is
Yeah,
super fun. And it's just been such a blessing to be able to work with the innovative group in Mortgage Free Life. And they've really taught me, just model it and just say,
yeah,
hey, this is your before, this is your after. If you like it, great.
yeah,
Here's how we move forward. If not, that's okay too. There's plenty of people out there that actually want to be helped.
yeah. No, 100%. And they're very open to it. I think that's where it comes down to when I ask you what kind of clients you want to be with, open minded. You
Yeah.
just got to
Yeah.
realize you don't know everything because you don't know everything. And when you're closed minded, I'm probably not going to be able to help you with that.
Yeah,
So,
I had this guy one time. I won't name him, but he reached out. A lot of my stuff's on TikTok. He reached out to me and he starts attacking, my strategies that aren't even. I don't. They're not even my strategies because I'm not the CPA or tax attorney
yeah,
that made them. But he starts attacking it, and eventually I just go, well, because he's like, oh, I have a CPA degree and I'm a master's in taxation and I went to XYZ school and all this stuff, and I'm just like, then why are you reaching out to someone on TikTok if you know it all, why are you reaching out to me, a guy that you met on TikTok that you have told me I'm an idiot multiple times now? And it's just like,
yeah,
okay, you're just not open minded to this. And, it's just, it's hilarious sometimes the
yeah. No,
attitude,
so
which is
sometimes
rare.
sometimes
Yeah,
those people may become the best clients
true.
because when they have that shift and they have that aha, but yeah, 100% agree with you. Like, why are you wasting my time and your time, like attacking me
Arguing,
for,
sitting here arguing with me.
yeah.
So I don't want to argue, it's how to win friends and influence people, never argue. Right.
Yeah.
So
One of my mentors have told me though, Daniel, if you don't piss somebody off on a daily basis, you're not working in your sweet spot. Like not everybody's going to agree. Like that would be crazy to think everybody's going to agree with it, right? But being a
yeah,
little bit controversial and just sharing, and it's like, hey, you know what? This is what I do. If you're interested, let's have a conversation. If not, hey, still open to having that conversation. But I'm not going to be here trying to convince you how you should do what I'm doing. Like that, you got to come to that on your own, right?
yeah.
That's really what it is. Now, when you think about legacy, not just in terms of wealth, but in life you're building right now, what do you want your work, your business to stand for?
I really haven't thought about that much because, like I said, I'm a younger guy, so I really haven't thought about legacy at this point. But if I would just hope people remembered me, you know, as someone that always did right by people, that always helped people. Um, and really, I think that's what it comes down to is just, you know, in our church, we have a saying, it's CTR, choose the right. And so that's
Mm.
something that I try to live by is make sure, and that's how my parents raised me, is to always choose the right. So I would say that would be the legacy that I would want to leave is be remembered as someone that was someone that always chose the right.
Mm. Oh, that's great advice. Now, you've built Hannah Family Solutions around helping more people hold on to more of what they've already earned. That's why I call our movement "Keep What Is Yours." Uh, you know, what's behind that mission for you? What's the one principle you kind of live by from that perspective?
Just making sure, like I said, you're doing the right thing by clients and you're not forcing people into something that they don't need because there's a lot of advisors, and a lot of these big insurance IMOs will try to take 100% of someone's 401k and put it into a fixed index annuity, for
Mm,
example. So I would just making sure you're doing the right thing for your clients and that you're okay with that if it was public and everyone was to see it, you'd be okay with it. And something really that I try to live by is, hey, if this was my mom or if this was my
mm,
dad that I was working with right here, would I make this same decision? Because obviously I would, my parents are everything to me. So I would not try to do my parents wrong whatsoever. So I try to have that same perspective and frame with clients is, if this was my mom, would I be making the same recommendation?
yeah, no, that's a great advice. What I'm hearing you do often, what you do, you essentially help to simplify clients' lives especially around the finances, what they're doing around their taxes and everything. What's something that you've intentionally simplified either in your life or your business that really created an unexpected freedom and were able to kind of move to the next level for you?
I would say it wasn't something that I created, but something that a guy that his name's Andy Frisella. He owns a company called First Form, and he has a podcast. And someone that I've subscribed to a lot and has really just helped me, tremendously over the past 6 or 7 years. And it's something called the Power List, and so it's just 5 critical tasks that
Mm,
I have to complete every day. So, for example, today it was submit some contracting, and then there's a few, post videos on social media, complete XYZ plan for client. And then once I'm done with workout, obviously, because I'm someone that works out. And then once I'm done with those 5 tasks, I get to go do whatever I want.
mm,
My work day is over. So sometimes which I don't always just go do whatever I want, but most of the time I do more work.
mm,
But it's really that simplifying, knowing, hey, I have 5 things I need to get done. And then once I get done, I won my day. So that's really something that's helped me a lot and not so much think I have to work, 18 hours. I hate these people online that I don't hate them, but it's corny to me how they're like, you have to work 18 hours a day. You can't take any sleep. And it's like, no, not really. You just have to be efficient and productive
yeah.
and get some critical tasks done. So that's what's helped me the most is just identifying 5 critical tasks and completing them no matter what.
Yeah. Well, that's a great advice. Yeah, no, the whole hustle structure, that's actually what we're anti. Again, that's one of those keep what is yours. Like, you know what? Regain the freedom. And I talk about it in this way, right? And you've mentioned that that's important to you. Having the freedom of doing the work that you love, right? Like you mentioned, you kind of got into the industry and you started doing final expense. But at one point you must have realized going, okay, this is just going to be hustle and grind. Like this is not worth doing all of that work that you got to go and put into there. So you had mentors around you that kind of help you with that. But I called it the 4 W's. So the first W is, yeah, doing the work that you love. The next one is doing it with people that you love. Like, why would you work with clients that are just a pain just for the money? Again, there was a movie, I can't remember what it was, but the one line that I loved from it was, "How much did they pay you first to give up on your dreams?" And I kind of feel like when I talk to advisors, they build practices. Literally, it was like they build a practice that now they hate because it just made them the money. And it's like, hey, how can we go and break you free from that? How do we help you to kind of build and start loving the business that you're doing? Or maybe you need to get out of the business. I've had talking to advisors where it was like, you should not be in the business anymore. Like you literally are doing this just for the money. At some point, you're just you're going to have to get out, and it's better to getting out now than later, because it's always better to make those decisions right away. And
Yeah.
then also having the freedom around when you work and where you work, right? So those are kind of, when we're talking about keep what is yours and break free so that you can have those freedoms of doing the work you love, doing it with the people that you love working with, doing it whenever you want and wherever you want. And I think that becomes really important. And that sounds like, and how you're kind of structuring and what you're doing. And the one advantage you have, listen, I'm going to turn 53 this month. uh,
Nice.
I wish somebody told me this stuff when I was in my, early 20s, or maybe even early 30s, heck, even early 40s, right?
Yeah.
I kind of had to learn it on my own, and I did not have that ecosystem that you kind of had. So that's great to hear.
Yeah. Don't get me wrong. I'm all about working hard and getting things done, but I also like to play golf with my dad and, go skiing in Mammoth and all the fun stuff. So, but, one of the biggest lessons that my dad's taught me is when it's time to work, you work. And when it's time to have fun, you have fun. So,
Yeah.
you know, that's kind of one thing I try
No,
to.
listen, I'm totally with you. Like it's not about hustle and grind 24 hours a day. And there is that belief out there that that's the way you can go and become successful. And it's like, no, you got to work hard, but you also have to play hard, and you have to kind of have that distinction between those things, right? Listen, as we're coming to the close, I've got always asked these four, I call them rapid fire questions.
Stoked.
Kind of the first that comes to your mind. What's a favorite book that really shaped your thinking?
Favorite books that shape my thinking? Thinking in like life as a whole or finance?
Listen, it could be personally, it could be finance, whatever.
Hmm.
Like the book that kind of shaped your thinking has been most impactful in your life.
Um, Probably as corny as it is, because everyone says this, it's a book called How to Win Friends and Influence People
Mhm.
by Dale Carnegie.
Yeah,
I have a version from like it's got to be the 60s or 70s that I found at my great uncle's house. It
oh, cool.
looks like a book that's from the 60s, like you can tell it's really
Yeah,
old. And I cherish that thing mainly because it was my great
yeah,
uncle's, and so it's like an heirloom, or I believe it's what you say. So probably that book, or a book that my mom got me. It was like the first book that I read, and it was called I Love Capitalism by a guy named
mm,
Kent Langen. That was pretty impactful for me. And then there's another book called Pirates of Manhattan. Not that this one completely is how I live my life, but that was one of the ones that I first started reading in like the finance realm, um, that impacted me a lot.
no, that's great. Is there a morning routine or a daily habit that you can't live without?
Um, yeah, I would say probably working out, because I try to stay in shape, and I like being a meathead and lifting weights, because that was I was a football player in high school, and so I enjoy lifting weights. Um, yeah, so something that I couldn't live without. It would suck if I couldn't lift weights, but I would just do something else.
Yeah,
I don't necessarily have like a routine though. I just try to wake up and start getting stuff done. So I don't subscribe to a lot of like traditional, you know, routines that people have, but
good.
I just call wake up and win. Just start
Yeah,
winning. Start crossing off
yeah,
tasks.
yeah. And sometimes that could be going and exercising. That could be going and doing something for your business. So no, that's great. Now, is there one bucket list that you haven't done yet?
There's a lot of bucket lists that I haven't done yet. I would say right now, like a bucket list like thing to go do for fun.
Whatever. Like this is again like what's something that you're like, hey, you know what? I haven't done it yet, and I really want it, right? So
Yeah. I love cars. So there's a couple cars that I'm looking at
yeah,
that I want to drive because I love driving fast. I used to have a Mustang 5.0 as, good fun entry level muscle car, excuse me.
yeah,
So that, and then my dad and I have a few golf courses that is on the bucket list that we want to
Mm.
play together.
Oh, that's fun. Yeah, doing stuff with your dad. That sounds awesome.
Like
Uh,
Pebble Beach, we did our Pebble Beach, I got my
yeah,
Pebble Beach mug right here. We did that this year, which was a great bucket list, but now we go or sorry, that was last year, but we go back about every 18 months now, and so that's just always
awesome.
a good bucket list trip that, we've already done it, but it's still like the bucket list of like, "Oh, we gotta keep doing it." So, yeah, I would say those 2 things, but there's so many, I
Yeah,
haven't really put a lot of thought into that actually, so now I'm thinking I need to put more thought into this.
yeah, awesome. Now, is there a surprising hobby or interest that kind of gives you that recharges you, that gives you more energy?
Um Surprising? No. I mean, I'm a pretty, I guess you'd call it American guy. I like to golf. I like to ski and snowboard, although anyone that has gone with me knows I'm not a very good skier or snowboarder for that fact. It's funny, like my brother and some of my other friends, we've been going all for the same amount of time, but they're like 100 times better than me. And so it's like I'll go off like a little lip and get like this much air, and they'll just like make fun of me for that because they'll get like feet of air.
Yeah,
But I love doing that, and then obviously so golf, ski, snowboard, dirt biking, and those are between those.
yeah,
That's about it. But other than that, like hobby wise, um, no, not.
yeah.
I road bike, which a lot of people think is kind of dorky, and to be quite honest, I think it's dorky too. But I love riding bikes. I've always loved bikes.
Yeah. Well, you're into the sport, so I mean that's really that's kind of the hobbies and doesn't necessarily mean which one. So
Yeah.
now I've got one last question. I call it the hot one. Fast forward to the end of your life and imagine that everyone kind of forgot everything you ever showed them, taught them, or shared with them, but they do remember one message from you. What would that one message be that you would want them to remember?
No one feels sorry for you.
Hmm.
That's what I would say because this is something that I live by. Is that no one's gonna feel sorry for you. You got to do it anyway. And then also, I would say you just got to be yourself.
Hmm.
I would say those 2 things. You gotta be
Yeah.
yourself. I know not everyone's gonna like me, and typically people either love me or they hate me. It's pretty one way or the
Yeah.
other.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. So, pretty much, those 2 things.
Yeah. No, that's a great advice. No, like be yourself. Like, you know what? I think this is what happens somewhere. Again, breaking down the systems and what happens somewhere in college, we stopped living about who we are and we start to live for our friends. We try to impress them. We try to be like them, and we forget who we are. And then we kind of go on this journey. And you've heard sometimes described the midlife journey, midlife crisis, men goes through and all that stuff. Oh, it's just then discovering who they truly are,
Yeah.
and I think that's one thing that's really important. So
And I'd probably change that answer in 20 or 30 years
yeah,
maybe. I don't know, but at this point in my life, that's what it is. But
yeah,
I think too that at the end of my life, I'm just gonna want to really, you know, have been able to spend a lot of time with my family and, not so much focused on material stuff. But yeah, that's a good question. I have a lot of good questions, Daniel. I haven't put a lot of thought into a lot of these things
yeah.
because right
Well,
now it's mainly, focusing on growing my business. So maybe I need to reflect more on some of these things.
yeah, well, listen, you're just starting out. You're just a young pup compared to me right at this point.
Yeah.
So you're doing good where you are at this point. So no, that's great. Listen, what a powerful and perspective shifting conversation, Jeff. Thank you for sharing your journey. Where can people find out more about you and the work that you do?
You just look up Jeffrey Hanna on Google and you'll find me. I'm on Instagram, I'm on TikTok, I'm on YouTube, I'm on LinkedIn. So if you just look up my name, and then you can also go to my website, which I know you guys are hearing it say Hanna Family Solutions, which is technically my business. But this year I'm launching a family office. It's called HFO, Hanna Family Office. So if you just go to hfopartners.com, you can find me there as well. But yeah, if you just look up my name, you'll see me. If if there's a social account on the internet, I'm there. So
Perfect. So if you're listening, be sure to check out Jeff's assets that he has gone and built. We're going to have the links and everything in the show notes. So explore the tools and get connected with him to design a more meaningful and tax efficient future. Jeff, thank you again for your time and your message. And remember, making life less taxing isn't just about money, it's about freedom, clarity, and purpose. Keep building wealth, keep protecting your legacy, and keep living the untaxable lifestyle. We'll see you next time on the Make Life Less Taxing podcast. Jeff, thank you again.
Cool. Thank you, Daniel.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of Make Life Less Taxing podcast. Be sure to check out our other top advisor interviews at makelifilesstaxingpodcast.com.